But Europe was changing. The Black Death had wiped out millions, shaking people's faith. Priests searched for someone to blame, and whispers of demons, magic, and unseen forces began to fill the air. For centuries, the church had dismissed witchcraft as superstition, foolish village talk, not a real threat. Yet by the 1400s, fear was a powerful political tool. And in the chaos of crumbling faith, one man would twist theology into terror. His name was Heinrich Kramer, a Dominican inquisitor obsessed with the idea that witches were not only real, but secretly conspiring with the devil himself. His mission was to prove that evil walked among ordinary people and to make the church listen. Kramer's obsession began as frustration. Local bishops often laughed him off, calling it superstition and peasant nonsense. But Kramer wanted proof that witches were not only real but organized. In 1484, he took his case directly to the top, Pope Innocent VIII. The Pope, facing growing unrest and fearful of losing control, issued a decree, the Summus Deciderans Effectibus. It gave Kramer official authority to hunt witches across Germany. Empowered and enraged, Kramer set out to write what would become one of history's deadliest books, the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches. Written in cold Latin, it combined church law, folk myth, and personal hatred into a single manual. It described in chilling detail how to identify, question, and cleanse those accused of witchcraft. But it was also deeply personal, a man's vendetta disguised as holy duty. Kramer claimed witches could control weather, destroy crops, and seduce priests with demonic power. To him, women were weak, lustful, and easily corrupted. What began as paranoia soon had the weight of divine authority behind it. The stage was set for centuries of fear. Once printed, the Malleus Maleficarum spread like wildfire, ironically, thanks to the new printing press, a tool of enlightenment that now carried darkness instead. The book provided everything inquisitors needed: step-by-step instructions for interrogation, torture, and public confession. According to Kramer, doubt itself was a sin. If a woman denied being a witch, that was proof of Satan's deception. If she confessed, she was guilty. Either way, the outcome was the same. Yet the people, desperate for clarity in an age of chaos, believed it bore holy authority. The church's silence gave it power, and that silence would cost thousands their lives. By the early 1500s, witch trials had exploded across Europe. Towns competed to cleanse themselves of Satan's influence. In Germany alone, entire villages were wiped out, sometimes over nothing more than a child's nightmare or a failed harvest. But the church was losing control of its own creation. Yet the people, desperate for clarity in an age of chaos, believed it bore holy authority. The church's silence gave it power, and that silence would cost thousands their lives. By the early 1500s, witch trials had exploded across Europe. Towns competed to cleanse themselves of Satan's influence. In Germany alone, entire villages were wiped out, sometimes over nothing more than a child's nightmare or a failed harvest. But the church was losing control of its own creation. The printing press had freed the Malleus from the pulpit. Copies spread beyond monasteries into the hands of local judges, who often twisted its teachings for political gain or personal revenge. Kramer's manual became a contagion of paranoia. The church, once the gatekeeper of truth, now watched its own theology turn against it. Even bishops began to fear accusations. After all, who could argue against a witch hunter without looking suspicious? They called it God's justice, but it began with fear. A priest's whisper turned into a scream, a rumor into a fire. Within decades, thousands of innocent women would burn, all because the church tried to silence one heresy and, in doing so, accidentally unleashed the age of witch hunts. It began in the late Middle Ages, when the Catholic Church ruled not only souls but nations. Heresy, any idea that challenged church authority, was treated as a disease that had to be cut out before it spread.